Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always here at the Pig and Whistle in Stormwind, I go through a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. So grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. Today's subject, we're going to be looking at TBC Prepatch and what's happened within it so far. But obviously every week we go through the weekly sort of things within retail. So let's get into that first. The world boss for this week is Mortanis. He is the world boss in Maldraxxus. Make sure you get that 250 anima and possibly some potential gear for ults. The mythic affixes for this week are Bursting, Volcanic, Fortified and Pride. Bursting, don't kill too many things at once unless you have a healer that's got a master spell like a priest. And Volcanic, just move to the side, sidestep the little volcanoes that are under your feet, nice and easy. The event for this week is Cataclysm Time Walking, so make sure you hop into the Time Walking dungeons and get some gear for your ults, get some Time Walking badges, get a few mounts, cosmetics, that kind of thing, maybe some rep from the currency. And there is a brawl for this week, and the brawl is Gravity Lapse in Eye of the Storm. Every now and again, you'll just fly up into the air and you'll get sort of shot down. You'll have like a goblin glider shooting you down from the sky, and that happens to everyone within the battleground periodically. So it's a good fun brawl, not gonna lie, and it's good fun to utilise that sort of leap, as it were. The quests for this week, the 2 dungeon quests that you can pick up in Oribos, are 2 times the other side. So 1 dungeon for the price of 2 quests, get a little bit of anima and get it done nice and easy. That, along with the world boss, will pretty much have you, half of your anima weekly, like half of your weekly anima, which is really good. So let's get straight into the pre-patch and what it sort of entailed. I'm going to be looking over the sort of hot fixes mainly that have occurred within the pre-patch. This is dating back to the 19th of May, will be the sort of earlier ones in this segment. But as we go through it, it will become more and more not relevant, recent, that's the word. It'll be more and more recent, the hot fixes that they've put in place. So let's get started. The sort of first hot fixes that they ever did were for quite a few things. It's actually covering pretty much everything within the game: classes, raids, items, and even PvP. Even professions and quests are in there as well a little bit. So the classes, character boosted warlocks will now have pets that gain their grimoire spells, which is, a big thing with warlocks, because if they've only got a rank 1 taunt on your Voidwalker, suddenly you're the one tanking it instead of your Voidwalker and he's doing no sort of damage. It's a big thing, so the grimoires are very good, and, it's good that they found that out. Druids that have been boosted with a character boost now learn Hurricane rank 2. Those that did not have it can learn it by entering, any major city, Orgrimmar, Stormwind, or Thunderbluff. I'm not sure why there's 2 Horde cities there. And, Thunderbluff because, that's where a Druid trainer is. For Taurens, they actually start off in Thunderbluff, I believe. The Tauren Druids, the ones that get boosted. So that makes more sense now. It's a bit weird that it's just Hurricane rank 2 that they didn't have, but, some things just get lost in the, spaghetti code that Blizzard have. It's understandable. Dungeons and raids, Naxxramas. Now this is something that I looked at and thought, Jesus Christ, thank God I'm not raiding anymore. They fixed an issue where Saffron's Frost Aura dealt double damage. Now, frost resistance for Saffron is necessary because she ticks for 600 damage if you don't have any frost resistance. And this is, in segments. So it can be 150 damage, it can be 150 damage, 300 damage, 450, and 600 damage. And doubling this is like chunking about, if you're looking at a mage, it's about a quarter of your health per tick. And this thing ticks every 3 seconds, I believe. It's something like that. So this is like a real slap in the face, dealing double damage, because you're wearing a shit ton of frost resist gear only to sort of mitigate what it would have done originally, but because it's double damage, it's still doing its original damage as if you're wearing no frost resist gear, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I explained that right. Basically, no matter what, it's going to be doing 600 damage, no matter how much frost resist you have on, and that's just not fun to deal with at all. You've got to be a speedrunning guild to deal with that sort of like tick damage almost. You've got to be really on top of it. There's a few items and rewards that were a bit messed up. So a Chronoboom displacer is no longer removed upon entering an arena. The arena skirmishes are out, by the way, if you didn't know. It is in TBC Prepatch. You can't make a team, though, to do rated for obvious reasons. And Eye of the Storm is also out. But again, it isn't available to anyone at level 60. It is a level 70 PvP battleground. I believe it might become available at level 61. I think that will be the range that, people can start entering that battleground. And the reawakened Phase Hunter mount can now be, or is now the correct level requirement of 30. So basically, if you were level 30, you might not have been able to use it if you paid for the digital deluxe edition, which, paying, I think it was $70 for. I think it was that. Yeah, $70 for. You want to get everything out of that. So you can understand them fixing that relatively quickly. So for player versus player, this is for NA realms only. The Alterac Valley War Masters have returned to their stations. I'm not too sure what this means. What I imagine is that the War Masters in Drek's room, or not Galv, I'm Alliance, so all I know is them two names. The Alliance leader, I'm guessing their War Masters were a bit out of place, and you could just pull like the boss and not have to deal with the War Masters or something along that lines. And they also fixed an issue that caused Battlegrounds to award more bonus honor than intended. Honestly, I would like this. I would like this fixed or this bug to have stayed in, because grinding honor now is kind of a bit annoying. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. Professions, the enchant chest, greater stats, once again has increased stats as expected. And this is basically just a bug where it might be +4 to all stats, but instead it might just be +2, or it might not even be plus in any stats at all, that kind of thing. And it is one of the more expensive enchants, so you definitely want to keep that, at the right level that it is. And, they fixed the quest. Basically, they fixed this quest called Crown of the Earth, where it just couldn't be completed. So, yeah, they fixed that, and you can now hand in said quest. Looking at sort of more recent changes, again, there's more sort of dungeon and raids, professions and stuff. A lot less class ones in this part. On the 20th, it is just mostly dungeons and raids that they were looking at apparently in this patch. So dungeons and raids, next Ramus again. You have Hagen the Unclean this time, and he will no longer play dirty and teleport the tank. So this mechanic, he teleports a few of you into a room, and you usually wait for 2 groups, and then you run this little gauntlet. If he teleports the tank, I would imagine the threat is lost on Hagen, and he just hits the next highest threat, which is most likely a DPS. Or he teleports the tank, and he runs after the tank, and it will reset if he goes out of bounds into that gauntlet. So one or two things can happen, but I imagine that it is just he swings on the next person who is on the threat meter, and you never want that. You don't want your DPS to die. But, at least they fixed it. At least they got around to fixing it before, pre-patch ends and TBC hits, because this is the only time people will be doing next Ramus still. Another Hagen buff, another Hagen hotfix. Hagen the Unclean has returned to summoning the correct plague wave after his encounter has been reset. So basically, if he teleports to a platform, you have to do something called a safety dance. And the room is split into 4 sections. You start on the left, which is section 1, and he explodes the other 3 sections, so 2, 3, and 4. And then you move to section 2, he explodes section 1, 3, and 4. Move to section 3, and so on and so forth. So there's always one safe section. But if you were to die when he was going to explode, sections 1, 2, and 4, and third would have been the safe spot, because he's always done this where if he's reset, he'll always, reset this like safety dance. So you'd always start at 1. But this bug basically meant that he started at 3 and the safe zone was like zone 3. So you'd have an entire raid group waiting at 1, ready to do the safety dance. And then he would just, cheat. He'd be like, yeah, you guys got, juked. It was actually 3 that was safe, so deal with it. So I could definitely understand that being a bit annoying for raiding teams. So I can understand the hotfix on that. Temple of Anchorage, it fixed an issue where Cthulhu's digestive acid was doing more damage than intended. You go into Cthulhu's belly, you kill the little tentacles in there, and it weakens Cthulhu. So this acid really does hurt over time, and you don't want to be in there for long at all, like as it is. So increasing the damage of this was not good, and I'm glad that they fixed this as well. A couple of other things, professions and quests wise. The leatherworking trainers have skilled up and are once again masterful enough to train artisan leatherworking to players. Apparently they're just very forgetful in game, and some people have them forgetful days where you just don't know what the hell you're doing and going in blind, to be honest. So at least they've regained how to make some leather. For some quests, there's a couple more issues. So for EU realms only, they fixed an issue where Burning Crusade Collector's Edition quest A Special Thanks was not appearing for EU players. Now, I believe that this is the where you collect your mount and stuff from any sort of innkeeper. So again, having that, not show up for some players isn't really the best thing to happen. They also fixed an issue where the Marauders of Darrowshire quest items weren't properly created when using the Mystic Crystal, when there is one, like, fetid skull in the player's inventory. This is just something that's not sort of interactable and not working the way that it's intended. So you get the items that you need from clicking this crystal. Nice and simple, really. Nice and simple fix. It's really weird, though, how a pre-patch can cause so many bugs. Obviously, you're going into a new expansion, and this expansion is an old expansion that you've done in the past. So getting all of the coding from back in 2007, 2008, and matching it perfectly to how it was back then is going to be tough. So I can imagine there's obviously going to be a few bugs, and it will happen. It will always happen, but at least they're looking into it. They're constantly doing hot fixes and stuff for everything, which is very good. Moving on to the 21st. So they're doing these hot fixes daily, which is really good. But Hunters that were boosted with a character boost now learn dual wield, and those that do not have it can learn it by entering Stormwind or Orgrimmar. Very nice and simple there. Eagle Eye now correctly has an unlimited range as well. Not too sure how that works in terms of how you mess that up, because surely you just put unlimited range, but hey ho, there it is. For Shamans, Grounding Totem will no longer remove the Songflower buff. That's that's actually hilarious. I didn't see that one. Grounding Totem is a very strong totem in PvP against casters, and it removed a world buff, and this world buff was only an hour long. It is one of the better world buffs for its duration. So, having that being removed when putting down a grounding totem isn't the best thing in the world. And Farsight is now an unlimited range as well, so they have corrected that as well. They seem to have a problem with Farsight and Eagle Eye, the two unlimited range spells, so a bit weird on that one. For player versus player, Honor gained from all sources is now doubled for the rest of the pre-expansion update. So they previously nerfed it on the very first day of the pre-patch. They nerfed it by 80%. You gained honor an 80% slower rate, which is absolutely nuts and bonkers. And I think that they really did take that too far. I think maybe a 50% nerf would have been fine, but that is just absurd. Going 80%, really bringing it down. It might be in line with what it was in TBC, but you have to take into consideration that people want this PvP gear for the pre-patch, and the time to get that honour and get them marks for the pre-patch is only 2 weeks. So, they maybe could have given us a little bit of a carrot on a stick here and just given us a little bit more honour gain for these 2 weeks and then sort of, run it down a bit. But it's very rough, the 80%. So doubling it was okay, but I think that it still needed a little bit more. So either Storm can no longer be chosen for the daily Call to Arms Battleground quest during the pre-expansion update. Makes sense, either Storm isn't available to anyone. So yeah, there's no point in having it in the game at the moment. And they also fixed an issue where losing a base in Arathi Basin wouldn't teleport horde characters that were waiting for a respawn at base. So if some base got capped, and the graveyard usually teleports you to the closest to graveyard to you, you'd just be stuck there and you'd have to run to the next graveyard, which I find is quite funny. And a few quest and interface stuff as well. So quest items that are placed in the keyring when looted will now mark quest objectives as complete. Very simple one, to be honest. A Sunhawk spy for the quest Bloodwatch is so good at hiding that he's buried himself beneath the ground. We brought him back into the sun where he belongs. So this is a quest where you obviously kill a spy, and pretty much he was underneath the floor of the world. You couldn't get to him. You couldn't kill him. He's just hiding there. He's burrowed in. He's stuck his head in the ground like an ostrich. It's kind of, is it an ostrich? I'm pretty sure it's an ostrich that does that. So yeah, I'm glad that they brought him above the ground. And they fixed an issue where the ravaged caravan could not be turned in. The quest, a ravaged caravan. So nice and simple, that one. It can just be turned in now. A couple user interface stuff. The auto attack / auto shot combat option has returned to interface options. It has fixed an issue where cross-realm party invitations were incorrectly enabled. And this is quite a big thing because they allowed cross-realm dungeons and stuff, but it was just a bug that they fixed, pretty much. They didn't mean for it to go into the game. And they fixed an issue where raid members were not appearing as the correct colour on the minimap. I experienced this once or twice. It throws you off a bit, but it's nothing too severe. It can get annoying though. I can see why it would get annoying. And just the world, actually. This is just a world bug, apparently. The trees outside of Stormwind City are once again visible from inside the city. I'm so glad that is a bug fix. The fact that you just can't see them when inside Stormwind is a bit weird, but hey, what can you do? Skipping a few days, May 24th, you have some classes and dungeon stuff again. But Shaman's threat generated by Earth Shield is once again attributed to the target of the aura. So Earth Shield heals a target. You put Earth Shield on a target and it will heal them. And that heal will give threat to the target that has the Earth Shield on them, not the Shaman, I believe. I believe that's what it's saying, so that's really good. Dungeons and Raids, so 6 to 10 member parties can enter Blackrock Spire once again. So Lower Blackrock Spire is a 5-man instance. Upper Blackrock Spire is a 10-man instance. So you definitely don't want to run Upper Blackrock Spire with 5 people. It is not fun, and you'll have a really tough time in doing so. Even if you're geared, it will take a fair amount of time. And they fixed an issue that caused Sage's Fortune to be incorrectly removed when entering level 60 raids. Sage's Fortune is the Darkmoon Fair buff that you get for 2 hours. You can give you 10% 10% increased damage, 10% strength, any kind of buff that you want. So it's a world buff that was really good in raids, and obviously it was very rare because Darkmoon Fair only comes around once every month, I believe. So yeah, you don't want this buff to just be taken off of you when entering a raid. It's not fun. For quests, players should now be able to loot the Strange Lockbox in the Druid quest Trial of the Sea Lion. This quest is what you do to get your aquatic form, and you go to Westfall and you go to Silver Pine Forest, I believe. Yeah, I want to say Silver Pine Forest, but you go really far off the coast and like down pretty much near the fatigue zone, and you loot a lockbox. One of them is actually in a fatigue zone, so you've got to, be very quick, and having the lockbox not being able to, opened really isn't fun when you're swimming out that far and going there for that purpose only. And there's a little thing I'm gonna sort of include this because it is kind of classic and it is TBC classic. We're still kind of, going from one to the other. So WoW Classic, and this is WoW Classic era server. So those who stayed in WoW Classic, characters below level 60 are no longer teleported out of Silithus. I find that hilarious. Level 60s or level like 58s, 59s might go to Silithus to do a few quests to push that level 60, and apparently the zone just doesn't like them. Yeah, it just kicks them out. For the 25th of May, these are the most recent hot fixes given to us, and there's again classes, dungeons, and quests. So it fixed an issue where boosted character skills weren't leveled up. I mean, makes sense because you're paying for that and you've not got that much gold. I think it's about 20 gold you're given. So you don't really want to spend all of your gold on just instantly learning spells. You want a little bit for maybe a few pieces of gear here and there. Not expensive pieces, but decent enough. For NA realms only, cloned characters with unclaimed mail in their mailbox can now be deleted. Bit weird, not too sure why. But, if you've got a full mailbox and you just want to delete a few things, then yeah, I can see why this is annoying. And for Warrior specifically, Bloodthirst once again is affected by modifiers to attack power, such as improved Berserker stance or unleashed rage. So Bloodthirst wasn't getting the scaling of damage that it was due, and pretty much it's a nice little rectifier on this bug. For Dungeons and Raids, once again, we have a issue where Zul'Gurub and Onyxia raid reset times were not displayed correctly. So you might think that you're locked to the instance for another few days, whereas in fact it's only a few more hours. So you can go in and, actually be accurate with your raid lock timings now. For quests, you've got Hammertoe Grez once again respawns after players turn in Amulet of Secrets and accept the Prospect of Faith quest. And they also fixed an issue where Tzerak would sometimes not spawn for Alliance quest Signs of the Legion. So a few quests to be bug fixed. A lot of hot fixes have been coming through TBC Prepatch. There's been a lot of bugs, I'm not going to lie. There has been a lot. I streamed a couple hours ago and I encountered one myself. I've encountered a couple actually coming through PvP. The first one that I encountered was one of the first days that Prepatch came out, and I was grinding some honor for my gear. It was in an Arathi Basin. We were about to win. We were about 50 resources off winning with 3 bases. They had no chance, that kind of thing. And suddenly in the bottom left in my chat box, I just see like this person has left the instance group. This person has left the instance group. This person has left the instance group. Like multiple, like it's just one after the other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get about 6 people that I saw, and then I'm kicked out of the instance group and I'm thrown back into Stormwind. And the entire battleground just shut down. It was really strange. It was almost like they just pulled the plug on that one specific battleground. But I don't know what would have caused it. But I just saw people like disappearing before my very eyes. I know a guildie who's also had that problem as well. But instead of him being kicked out, he was the only one left in the battleground. He was literally the sole survivor of this battleground. And they just won because of it. That he just kept everything. And yeah, that was it. That was like how easy it was to win an AB. So it's a really weird bug, and they haven't really addressed it in any of these hot fixes. So I hope that they find out what it is, because it being a regular thing is going to be quite annoying eventually, but it isn't at the forefront of many battleground bugs at the moment. Again, it is very rare that these things happen with the amount of battlegrounds that are going on at the moment, so it's quite tough to pinpoint it and, fix it in that regard because you don't know what might be causing it, etc. And the second bug that I have encountered was today. And like I said, this was literally on the stream. You can go back and watch the VOD of the stream. And it was about an hour and 30 minutes into the stream. But I was in a Warsong Gulch, I got killed, and I pressed release. Nice and simple, right? You press release, you go back to your graveyard, you get rezzed by the spirit healer. So, there was no spirit healer for me. I was in a state of death, like my screen was black and white when you are usually dead within World of Warcraft. My character was not a spirit though. My character was my full flesh model character, and people could see me as my model. Like people could see my model running about as a character, but in the frames I was dead, and I couldn't res. I had no body to go back to press literally I had no body. My body where I died was a skeleton. So I literally had no body to go back to resurrect there. No one could res me as my ghost. And I just stayed there as a ghost throughout the entire battleground. I couldn't press any spells. I tried exiting game and coming back. It didn't work. I was still a ghost. The battleground ended and I pressed leave battleground. I teleported back to Stormwind and I was still in that sort of purgatory state. I was a ghost. I couldn't use any spells, but I was a physical character. I was a flesh character. And it was one of the strangest and most hilarious bugs that I've ever actually encountered, to be honest. Because when I, another battleground queue popped, I joined the Arathi Basin, and I'm still classed as dead. I can't trade anything, I can't use any spells. It was really weird. And all this time, I've still got a black and white screen, as if I'm dead. So it was a really weird bug that I've never encountered before, and I don't think I've ever seen it before, to be honest with you. But it was so weird. In the end, the resolution was literally logging out and logging back in instead of exiting game and logging back in. So I don't really know what to suggest there, to be honest. But it was a really weird bug and it was quite fun. These bugs in Prepatch I find really enjoyable. They make the game a hell of a lot more funny, and it might just be something to cheer your day up. It might not be great fun for some people, but for me it's that's actually really enjoyable. It's funny to see a bug within the game that no one or I haven't seen at all, and it gives you a different sort of perspective on the game. It's okay, well, it's not perfect as always, nothing's perfect, but it's just a different way to enjoy the game, I guess. Being sort of someone who just finds a bug and has to deal with it. But again, like I said, there's a lot of bugs going on within the pre-patch, and I imagine there's going to be loads in TBC themselves, but I'm looking forward to them. I'm looking forward to seeing what wacky stuff comes out of TBC, bug-wise. It's going to be great, and that I can't wait for. I want to go over a few different points with the pre-patch so far as well. So the honour gain, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but the first day of pre-patch, I got 12,000 honour. That's a lot of honour, and I didn't do necessarily much PvP. So I got a lot of honour for not very little. So I can understand them bringing it down a little bit. 80% I think is way too much, don't get me wrong. 50% I think would have been a fair amount because of the 2-week period that we have for the pre-patch to earn the honour gear that we want, to earn any sort of marks that we want as well. Mainly if you just want the battlegrounds for the marks for your mount or something. So I definitely think that the honour game was a bit OTT and that they could have turned it up a bit. So the hotfix that they gave, the little double, the double honour until pre-patch ends, I think that's good to go back to it a little bit. But double nothing is pretty much nothing still. I think if they just toned it down by 50% and then toned it down that little bit more afterwards to bring it in line with what it was in TBC, I think that would have been fine. Because I think this has caused a lot of sort of outbreak in the player base, because it is quite annoying to farm some of these things with a 2-week period. If you've got work and you can only spend like an hour or two a day on WoW, grinding like 2 hours in a battleground just to get like 2,000 honor, it's not going to be worth it for your time, and you might just really want the PvP gear. So I think it's very tough for those who don't have the time to grind that, like to do that grind pretty much. That's why I think it should have been a bit more lenient with the pre-patch. For another point, actually, is the Feral Druid thing. So I've seen a lot of uproar about this, but the Feral Druid energy tick, basically the energy regen tick timers are reset when shifting into a cat form. And what this does is there's a certain Feral Druid thing called power shifting, and this is with a level 40 helmet that gives you 40 energy whenever you go into cat form. So what you'd do is you'd be in cat form, you'd use all 100 energy that you can, you'd go out of cat form, you would basically go back in cat form, and you'd have 40 energy, plus you've got some talents that give you a little bit more energy and stuff like that. So what they've done, because some people didn't like the headpiece being your best in slot at level 70, because this level 40 headpiece that's crafted, that has like 10 spirit in stats and stuff, basically is your best in slot if you're looking to power shift at level 70 as a Feral Druid. And people didn't like that. People didn't like it at all. So Blizzard made the change to basically have the timers reset so it isn't as powerful as, say, just not doing it. It's still not great, Feral Druids, I've got to admit, but Feral Druids get better. They do get better in TBC, but this isn't going to be... This kind of gave them a little bit of a nuance, in a way, with this power shifting like meta that they do. And I think that's quite cool. This obviously caters to the more people who don't necessarily want to do that constantly, because you're having to manage your mana as well and stuff like that. But obviously for power shifting purposes. But I think overall it could be a good thing. Only time will tell. There needs to be a lot more sort of data on it and how people actually think, how actual Feral Druids think. And there is a forum post if you do wish to go and put your thoughts forward towards this. I don't have a Feral Druid myself, so I'm not going to really be too biased on either side. I think you need to give it a lot more time and to gather a lot more data on it. And I think that they could have done it in a different way, maybe put some talents into it. But then again, you've got the whole balancing act of talents and stuff like that. So it's very tough to go about, modifying these types of things for TBC. But you've got to try something, and this is what they're trying. If the player base is really that negative about it and they're posting on the forums constantly, they will listen. They will listen to you, and they will see what they can do to sort of either take it away or modify it a bit more as to how the player base might want it, etc. But for me, I have no personal thoughts on it. I just wanted to let you guys know about it, pretty much. And lastly, TBC's very soon. 4 days? I'm saying 4 days. I'm literally got a timer right here. It's 5 days. 5 days, 4 hours. Like, it's so soon and it's going to be so good. Like, I think for my guild, we're doing a little event where we'll just be walking through the Dark Portal together. We won't be doing anything extreme. It'll just be going through and seeing Hellfire for the first time all together. And I think that'll be really fun. You'll just have a massive crowd going through, and it's going to be good. I'm going to probably get a screenshot or two with them, and then we'll go, like, a couple will go off for the night, a couple will carry on questing, that kind of thing. So it's getting really exciting. I can't wait for TBC. I can't wait for all the bugs it brings. It's going to be good fun. But don't let the hatred of the deluxe edition, the boosts or whatever you're not liking cloud the fact that TBC is again releasing. This is something that many people might not have experienced. I haven't. It was back in 2006, 2007 that this happened, this experience, and this is the only other time that I can imagine that you will be able to experience this. This is the only time, so really drink it in. It's going to be good. But thank you all very much for listening as always. Please do check out all the social medias and stuff. definitely check out the streams, the YouTubes. A lot of videos have been going up there recently. And definitely keep an eye out for the Patreon podcasts. If you're a Patreon member, they're always going up every week. So definitely tune in for that. Thank you all very much for listening. As always, go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.